to the Geekly. This is our second Q&A episode. We've got a decent number of interesting questions for you today. I'm Lex.
I'm Jules.
You want to just get started, or?
Yeah, let's dive straight in. This one is from @GotStratosphere on Twitter. Who is your third favourite superhero?
This is kind of a tricky one because I never really think about my third favorite superhero. I mean, obviously Batman is kind of my favorite superhero just by default. I don't know why I can't explain that. I don't think I need to explain that. I think most people will be like, yeah, Batman.
He's my number one as well, so I think we're off to a good start.
My number two is Gambit.
Oh,
so
nice.
I've got a Marvel and a DC one. Probably Nightcrawler.
Interesting.
Or Nightwing.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah.
It might be tied between those two. I've really gotten into Nightwing since Titans, and I started reading the Nightwing Rebirth comics. But Nightcrawler is always he's very endearing and cute in a weird sort of monstrous way. So I don't know if I can choose between the two. So it's a tie. My third favorite superheroes are Nightwing and Nightcrawler.
That's a good answer, I think. And like you said, you're happy with Nightwing in Titans?
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm really enjoying. I mean, we haven't really gotten Nightwing yet. Well, we got a little bit at the end of season 2, just kind of like a teaser about it. But yeah, I like Titans Dick Grayson. I like that they show the struggle between him not wanting to be like Batman, not wanting to just solve problems with his fists, but inevitably and repeatedly falling into the same trap where he just beats people up. And, I like his interactions with Jason Todd as well. I think they have kind of a nice chemistry. So
They absolutely do, yeah. And I think it just helps sometimes when you get in a comics accurate suit. And I think the Nightwing suit, when he landed on that car, I just thought, yeah, I'm a big fan of this.
That was amazing. I think I actually squealed with that.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool moment. My third favourite superhero, and I don't know whether it qualifies as a superhero, to be honest, but I've just gone with someone that appears in comic books, someone that happens to be within the Arrowverse. So I think that's good enough for me anyway. I've gone for John Constantine. I've loved watching the Matt Ryan Constantine from his TV show up to his Arrow cameo, joining the Legends of Tomorrow. And frequently when I watch Legends of Tomorrow episodes, I just think I'm basically watching this for John Constantine. I'm watching this for Matt Ryan. You very kindly gave me a Hellblazer graphic novel a while back, which I'm planning on reading during isolation, and it's somebody I want to know more about. I think the fact that he's this English guy as well, just, you don't often see people based in England interacting with people like Batman, so that brings its own little element towards it as well. And I found out recently that he actually does the voice of Constantine in the animated films, so I'm going to need to watch those as well. I think we'd both agree that we'd like to see Constantine get his own show back, but maybe a different show to the one that was on NBC, maybe a CW show. Yeah, so I think that's my answer.
That's a pretty good one. I think he kind of qualifies as a superhero. He's a little bit of an anti-hero, but he ultimately kind of works for the greater good and he actually has kind of powers or can channel magic. Yeah, I was really disappointed in the first run of the Constantine TV show. It didn't hit with me, but I've really enjoyed his further escapades in the Arrowverse. I think the characters become more developed and his portrayal is just really great.
Okay, let's move on to question number 2. This is the first of 2 questions from @ConfusingKitten on Twitter. If you could have a theme song play whenever you walked into a room, what would it be?
See, it's a very complex question because you have to try to think of what image you want to convey of yourself and what your image of yourself is, but it can't be completely different from what yourself actually is, because then that's just comedically ridiculous.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that it's whenever you walk into a room. You walk into the bathroom, you walk into the kitchen for a snack at 2 a.m. This thing is going to haunt you, and you're going to be sick of it after 48 hours at the most. So you have to also think about what song you like playing with you basically for the rest of your existence, which is kind of a horrifying thought. So you're kind of weighing up these 2 very different ideas.
If there was a theme song that played every time I walked into a room, I might just pick a very large room and stay there. I can't think of a specific song, but I'd probably say something from Linkin Park. There are several that are kind of really good anthem type songs. I would be really hard pressed to pick a favorite, but yeah, just something from Linkin Park would kind of work for me.
I had a few ideas myself, actually. One of them was Clubfoot by Kasabian, which I don't know if you know Kill Bill. I can't remember if it's in Kill Bill 1 or 2, but it's the one that's da da dum 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 da da dum 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 like that. But I
That's a
thought,
pretty good one.
yeah, it's a pretty good one. But like you said, you wanted to paint yourself in a certain way. And you know when they say like dress for the job you want, I thought maybe I'd have the theme tune for the Uncharted games. People would think, okay, that guy's intriguing. Like, I feel like if I got to know that guy, potentially we'd go on like an adventure, or like that guy's got some kind of scheme that he wants people to be involved in. And I think people would be intrigued more than anything. I might then inspire myself to do some kind of interesting, go on some interesting adventures. So I think it would work both ways, really. But I think of all the 6 questions, this was by far the most difficult one.
Yeah, definitely. Every time somebody asks me about music, my mind goes completely blank, and I'm just like, I know I have favorite songs, but I can never think of them. It's just like they come on, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really like this song.
I'm kind of a strange person because in my spare time, I don't really listen to music. I watch TV or I watch films or I might play computer games, but music is one form of media that I don't engage with as much as a lot of other people do. When people ask me what's your favourite band or who do you like, in the music world, I never really know what to say because by the time I think of something, they're like 2 years out of date because I haven't engaged with music in so long. So it's always a very difficult conversation to have with me.
Our next question is, what TV shows do you like that are not geek related? This one's a bit challenging as well because just about everything I watch is geek related.
In terms of drama at the moment, I'm watching Better Call Saul. In terms of comedy, I'm watching Toast of London, Year of the Rabbit. I might get back into Garth Marenghi's Dark Place actually because I haven't watched that in a while. And also the brand new series of What We Do in the Shadows is going to start quite soon. But my main TV watching that isn't geek related is actually probably sport related. I watch a lot of F1. I watch men's and women's international and domestic football. I watch international cricket. I watch golf majors. So I do watch a lot of sport on TV as well. And one random one, I'm quite into a gold mining show or 2 or 3 on the Discovery Channel. And the one I'm enjoying most at the moment is Gold Rush Whitewater, if anybody watches that. Yeah, just, it's exactly what you think it is. They go out mining for gold, panning for gold, and I find that incredibly therapeutic to watch, actually. So I'd recommend that to anybody at the moment if you want to try something brand new during isolation. Go and see what the gold miners are doing on the Discovery Channel.
I mean, I don't watch a huge amount of comedy, but for comedy, I would say Community, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The Good Place is kind of geeky. I don't know. It's one of those like sort of in between ones. But 30 Rock, and then for drama, The Resident, Vikings. That's kind of it. Oh, Sons of Anarchy. I like that as well. I binged all of that in like a couple days. It was really addictive. I think that's kind of it. Everything else is like vampires or sci-fi or geeks in general.
What is your favourite cinematic monologue?
This is another like kind of tricky one because I don't tend to remember monologues. I mean, I think probably it would be something that Jean-Luc Picard said, or potentially Patrick Stewart's Professor X. Basically, something that Patrick Stewart has said. That would be my favorite cinematic monologue.
Yeah, he's got the gravitas to kind of dish out life lessons like it's nothing.
Yeah, like he's reading a sonnet a day, and I'm like totally fixated on it. Like every single day, I'm like looking at his Twitter feed, waiting for the next one. I don't even know what the sonnets are about. I don't know what they mean, but he could read a telephone directory, and I would be there like absolutely wrapped.
For me, I kind of had 2 that I was debating over. The one that kind of was the runner-up was the one from Independence Day. I think his name's Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
When he's the president. That's a really good one. But the one that I think is the best cinematic monologue of all time is just a timeless speech. I advise anybody to go and watch this on YouTube. It's Charlie Chaplin's speech in The Great Dictator. It will never not be relevant, and it might be a good thing for people to watch at the moment. And yeah, for someone that people mostly associate him with kind of, silent films. When he finally found his voice and when the speakies finally came in, he delivered this haunting, magnificent speech. Yeah, I delivered it once in a drama class when I was like 15, and I wish I could remember it. I might have to relearn it because it was that good. But yeah, I might even put the link to that under this video for people to go and watch. The one from Andrew Ryan in BioShock is pretty good as well, but that's a computer game.
So our next one is from Cap Understands, which is the podcast I understood that reference, which you should check out. And just to go back to the first question, Got Stratosphere is Ghosts of the Stratosphere, which is another really cool podcast, so go give them a listen. And Podchaser is doing a really cool thing where they're donating money to fight the coronavirus for every review you do on Podchaser, so go get reviewing. Anyway, the question from I Understood That Reference is what originally got you into geek culture?
So picture this scene, the early 90s. I didn't know what computer games were, and it was either birthday or Christmas or something, but my parents, who were gamers themselves in their time, got me a Sega Master System 2, and I had Sonic the Hedgehog to play on that. But around the exact same time, a little TV show hit the airwaves, Batman the Animated Series. So it's difficult to know what came first. It's a chicken and egg kind of situation. But I became a gamer and became a big Batman fanboy, like 92, 93, 94, like I couldn't tell exactly when. But those were the two moments, I think, that put me down the path to being into all kinds of fandoms. So
for me, yeah, it's kind of similar. It's not really any kind of single thing. I was very early on introduced to video games in the form of Zelda on the original Nintendo system. Absolutely fell in love with the game. It was like kind of the highlight of my childhood. Equally, the X-Men comics were a very, very early influence, and again, I just was completely wrapped up in the characters. And the third bit of this trinity is Star Trek: The Next Generation. So these were kind of like my very, very early formative influences. And then, of course, 1989, Michael Keaton's Batman came out, which sort of started my love affair with Batman. I think, in general, what it comes down to for me is the stories that geek culture tells, and the tendency for these stories to be quite political and involve a lot of social commentary and deal with issues that the general public kind of struggles with handling, but they're told very seamlessly and very easily and talked about and discussed and thought about within these kind of geeky genres, whether it's sci-fi or horror and I know not everybody would classify horror as a geeky thing, but I kind of think it is. I mean, it depends on what horror you're going for. So I'd say kind of that conglomeration of things very early on in my childhood started a love affair with all things geek.
Final question. This is the second question from Confusing Kitten on Twitter. If all the actors who ever played Batman were in a fight as the Batman they played, with all the special skills, tools and vehicles that Batman had, who would win and why? Which is a really, really great question. One that I've been puzzling over for a long time. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I've been thinking about this question since it appeared on our Twitter, and just how do you choose between the various Batmans? They all have their strengths and weaknesses. And I think a few days ago I finally came down to Batfleck, for the sole basis that, he's older than all of the other Batmans. He has the experience, the kind of wisdom to him, and a longer opportunity to collect more toys. But this morning I was thinking about it, and I decided, no, actually, I'm going to go with the CW's Batman played by Kevin Conroy, because he kills people and the other Batmans don't. So he would win.
Interesting. For this question, I decided to do the 6 that have been in films. And I've kind of been thinking about this a lot. And I started at the beginning. I think Adam West would kind of rock up in his t-shirt, trying to do a Jean-Luc Picard, trying to talk everybody down, trying to solve it maybe with his words rather than with his fists. I think before anybody had even thrown a punch, he would sort of excuse himself from the proceedings. I don't really think he would be in any way a match-up for any of them in his little kind of t-shirt that he probably stitched himself. So I was thinking about the 3 90s Batmen, Keaton, Kilmer and Clooney. And I realised that I remembered nothing about Val Kilmer's Batman or George Clooney's Batman. So I watched Batman Forever and Batman and Robin yesterday, trying to kind of learn more about them. And the three that were in the 90s were actually quite kind of well matched. Keaton had a rubber suit, Kilmer had a rubber suit in the beginning, but then he had an armour suit at the end. George Clooney has the armour suit. But George Clooney is just absolutely terrible at hand-to-hand combat. His intellect is pretty poor. Keaton's really good at hand-to-hand combat, but Val Kilmer's is superb at hand-to-hand combat, and he's portrayed as somebody with really great intellect. So I think Clooney would be like 5th place. I think Keaton would be 4th place. Val Kilmer, I think, proceeds to kind of the next round with the fight against the big boys. But when he comes up against, they've all got, the armoured suits, Kilmer, Bale and Affleck. They're all great at hand-to-hand combat, great at using their environments. But I think the fact that Bale has apparently a hardened Kevlar plates on a titanium dipped fibre costume. Ben Affleck's is carbon fibre tri-weave. I think they kind of go to the final. And then it's kind of a coin toss. You've got youth of Bale, experience of Ben Affleck. The gadgets are kind of the same. And so I just thought, Ben Affleck, Christian Bale, how do you, solve this? They're so kind of similar in so many ways. And it came down to several things, really. I think Ben Affleck's physicality is more so than Bale's. I think Bale, like all the 90s Batmen, they're very muscular, but Ben Affleck also has mass. He's actually kind of his physical stature as Batman in Batman vs Superman is really, he's a big guy. I also thought about some quotes from The Dark Knight where Christian Bale says, "You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain." And he also says to Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul says to him, "Your compassion is a weakness and it will get you killed." And Bale says to him, "My compassion is what separates me from the villains." And it occurred to me that Ben Affleck in Batman vs Superman, he has lived long enough to see himself become the villain. He is no better in some ways than the villains he's kind of after. He's branding them, they've got these bat brands on them. And so I think those are two reasons that put him above Christian Bale. But I think the third most decisive thing, I think about this sometimes when I'm talking to people about boxing on the internet. You talk about the resume. Christian Bale, he took down the Scarecrow, Ra's al Ghul, the Joker, took down the Scarecrow again, took down Bane. I'm probably forgetting someone, but Ben Affleck's Batman has the physicality, but he also had the intellect to take down Superman. And I just think his resume surpasses every other Batman's resume. If he has the whole package to be able to take down Superman, and up until the infamous Martha moment, he could have killed him. So I think for that reason, all things considered, I've got to go for Batfleck as the most complete Batman. I believe that he would also kill as well. I think he does maybe in Batman vs Superman, I can't remember.
Oh yeah, he does throw that guy off the roof to get the fear critters.
I just think he has the shades of grey that Christian Bale doesn't have. Christian Bale is still kind of, there is a morality there. But Ben Affleck has lost the compassion that Ra's al Ghul perceives to be a weakness. And so he is no different from a villain. So I think he would do whatever was necessary. Whereas Christian Bale would come up short. There are certain things he wouldn't do. So that's why I'll come for Batfleck.
I think too, Bale's Batman reacts quite emotionally, whereas Batfleck is very calculated and distanced, which may be what you're saying when you say he's become the villain. There's a lack of impulse, and there's kind of plain longing. As you said, he very easily could have killed Superman because he strategically planned out every step of his attack and was prepared for all of these eventualities. And he just kind of went about it very methodically with zero emotional impact. He was just, I'm doing a job. My mission is to kill Superman. That's what I'm going to do. And if the Martha thing hadn't come up, he probably would have. So yeah, I think Batfleck is a good choice for who would win.
Yeah.
If you're just going with the kind of movie Batmans.
I did also think about, in the question, it does mention vehicles, but I just thought, I want a more mono kind of fight. But maybe we could talk about vehicles in the future. And also, I have to say, watching Batman Forever, I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I saw Batman Forever and Batman and Robin both at the cinema with my parents in the 90s. Batman and Robin is terrible. It's as bad as you remember. But Batman Forever, Kilmer was very good. I've got to be honest, maybe you want to forget, Jim Carrey, you want to forget Tommy Lee Jones, but Val Kilmer was as Keaton ever was.
In his day, he was a pretty decent actor, and it was also, he had the action resume, which neither Keaton or Clooney had.
Yeah.
I actually don't really remember his Batman very well. I was probably quite young when I saw it, and potentially just sort of blocked it out of my memory and haven't rewatched it since.
We should maybe do like a watch along or something for Patreon for Batman Forever.
Revisit Val Kilmer's Batman. I was quite fond of Val Kilmer before he kind of disappeared off the face of the earth in various things. He was in The Saint and several other things.
Have you seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
That is like one of my favorites.
Oh Jesus, what a film! What a film!
Val Kilmer, Robert Downey Jr., basically just a shitload of like really famous, amazing actors. I mean, the whole cast is stacked basically, and it's so much fun.
Superb film, yeah. I just found it interesting that Val Kilmer's Batman, what they did was that they really tried to emphasise the intellect. He was portrayed as somebody that could work out Edward Nygma's puzzles really easily and other things besides. Also, he was incredible. Obviously, it wasn't him. It was an actor in the Batsuit, but he was an incredibly good at hand-to-hand combat. Like, he would take down whole rooms of people. He would do a lot of the kind of daredevil flips, which I know you're not particularly a fan of. And then I watched George Clooney's, and the only attempt they made at showing his intellect was when he says to Alfred's niece, "Oh, you go to Oxbridge Academy, is that right?" And she looks at him like, "Oh, how did you deduce that?" And he's like, "The badge is on your jumper." And that was it. But I will say one thing. If the fight takes place at an ice rink, George Clooney beats all of them because his batsuit contains skates on the bottom, and they play ice hockey with a diamond. And he was meant to be in another film I found out called Batman Unchained, where they bring back every villain, Keaton's, Kilmer's and Clooney's villains, and he gets fear toxin, and so he dreams about all of them. And if they'd made that film, it would have been so cool to have seen all the villains come back. But as you can expect, Batman and Robin did so badly at the box office and was critically panned, and so he swore he would never wear the cowl ever again.
I think, you mentioned it a few times, I think that the intelligence of Batman is really important. He's kind of lauded as the greatest detective, and you can't be a good detective if you aren't pretty brilliant and good at deducing things and noticing details and things like that. So, I mean, like, yeah, Batman needs to have the physicality, he needs to be able to, like, beat up some thugs and stuff like that, but he's also got to be incredibly clever and quick on his feet as well.
Yeah, I think you saw a lot of that in the Ben Affleck Batman-Superman fight, because you could tell that he'd thought 10 steps ahead. There were probably other rooftops within that vicinity where other traps were set up, because he knew that Superman would, fly him here, throw him there, but everything was planned out meticulously. Brain triumphed over Brawn in that fight, and he was just lucky that they happened to have their mothers happen to have the same name, I think over the next couple of days I'm probably going to watch Batman vs Superman Ultimate Edition just to watch that fight again. I know a lot of people hate that film, but I will take a bullet for that fight. Yeah, for that fight up to but not including the Martha revelation. I think is genuinely gripping and amazing cinema, and it's comic book thrown right onto the screen. And yeah, one other thing, in all my deductions, I don't know about yours, I didn't even consider Ben Affleck's mech suit. I didn't think he needed it.
Didn't consider it, but Ben Affleck's Batman out of all of them seemed the most together. Like, all of the other Batmans are still kind of tortured, and I mean, Ben Affleck's Batman is tortured in a certain way, but he's also very distanced from it. Robin is dead, he's lost some fights, he's getting older, he's got some aches and pains, the physical thing is starting to take a toll on him. But at the same time, he's not as weighed down by all of it. Like the other Batmans have a tendency to be a little emo, and they're like, "Oh my God, my parents died." I
think that Ben Affleck's Batman, I've always wondered whether in Batman vs Superman he's kind of on a suicide mission anyway. I think they mention it in one of the films. I'm sure Wonder Woman might say it, but obviously then for Justice League he has this whole turnaround, and he's not so much a shit anymore. He's more of a team player. We get a few little jokes out of him because Joss Whedon couldn't help himself. But yeah, no, I know what you're saying. So yeah, he gets the nod from me. If anybody has any other questions, please send them along. We might try and do one of these every 6 weeks or something for the future, because isolation. Send your questions across on Twitter. And yeah, thanks for listening.